morning and we'll be back from the break. Now it is time for us to get into some inspiration hour. The inspiration and motivation quick ones with the business tip and our business quote of the day. All right, we shall be having the business tips and quotes later on in the show. But now let's link up with Baride Andrew, who is at Ginger Road, to give us more of what is happening from there with the traffic updates this morning.
Oh, thank you very much, Jerome Paul Sonko. Yes, we are just right here at the Ginger Road traffic lights, of course, trying to investigate the traffic condition around the area. And of course, as you can see just right behind me, it's not really that intense since it's a Monday, remember? And of course, probably we could have expected that such a day could have been one of the busiest days. But probably, when I was trying to interact with some of the few traffic officers before I reached here, and actually they were saying that probably schools closure could have contributed to why there is not too much congestion as it is really anticipated. As you can see, the vehicles that are coming from Ginger Road heading to Kampala Road and of course straight to the city center. It's been always a smooth move ever since actually we have been investigating on scene. So probably if you're coming from areas of Nakawa, you're coming from areas like Boyegere, and you're probably heading to the city center to transact your business or of course to go to work, probably it will be a little bit fair, and of course you might not be as late as you think you could be. It's not really that tight. So you can see that's the situation heading from that side. And still, as you can see, all the way to that lane, the road that heads to Chibuli, that side, it's a little bit also free. It's not that, of course, busy as on other days as compared to today. Today it's a unique Monday. We always anticipate Mondays to be rush hours. So that is what is really transpiring right there. As you can observe that, that's the ambience of this place. You can feel that. That's what is really transpiring right here on Ginger Road traffic lights. That's the situation. That's the traffic situation, and that's how it is like. Moving on. And of course, quite anticipating when we look at this other side of the lane, the vehicles that are coming from Kampala Road heading to Ginger Road, and of course now we are looking at some heading to Chibuli crossing that side, some are heading straight to Nakawa, Boyegere. So that seems to be a little bit, it's not as tight as expected because they are held in 5-minute intervals in a space of every after 5 minutes. Of course, they are held back, and of course they are released to go to the required destination. So that's the condition that is happening right now. It's not as congested as other days. So probably if you're heading to town, of course you're coming from town heading to other town sites, like, can I call them suburbs, you could be actually be in position to reach in time. Yeah, shortcuts, well, you could actually use them if you really feel like, but according to what I'm observing on ground, it may not be really that necessary because we know the dangers of shortcuts sometimes that are associated with them. They seem to be very long because subliminally you have it in mind that you're having a shortcut, so you think you're actually beating up time, yet in actual sense you might actually take a longer time. So that's what is really happening right here, the situation. That's the traffic situation happening here on Ginger Road. You can observe that right just there. What I've been telling you. You can see the vehicles that are leaving Nile Avenue heading to Chibuli. They have been held in a 5-minute interval since we came, actually, since I started to speak. They were held, and it's just about like 5 minutes, and now they're being held to go to their destinations. So you can see that's really what's happening right there here at Ginger Road traffic lights. Yeah, you can observe just right there. And of course, if we are to get back a little bit here, getting back to Ginger Road, the vehicles heading that side still held. They seem to have been held a little longer as compared to, because if I may calculate the 5-minute interval, they could be being released in 8 or to 10-minute intervals regarding that matter. So that's what is really transpiring here at Ginger Road traffic light situation. And probably if you're just leaving home right now and you're coming to town and you're heading probably to areas where I'm standing, where these roads connect, chances are high that you will be in position to actually reach in time. You don't, because the school's closure, of course not all schools, but some schools, probably there has been a certain reduction of congestion, because some of these vehicles definitely, we see like the school vehicles, parking around, causing all this congestion. You find that, all that, but the fact that it's now reducing, it's really leading to that ease in the traffic. And of course, that is making the flow a little bit smooth. So you will be in position to actually execute your business in time. You can observe that. That's the condition right there. 5-minute intervals held and released at the same time. Probably if it goes beyond, you can count 7 minutes. Unlike just a few people that don't seem to respect the traffic lights, and they do how they wish. And of course, majority being the motorcyclists, as you can observe some doing that. And of course, we know the dangers that are related to that. Abuse of road signs, of course, not respecting the traffic lights, and what can really turn out from that. So you can see that's the situation. That's how it is really turning out to be. And of course, this is what we had for you for the traffic updates this morning. I'm Andrew Barije, back to studio with Joram Paul Sonko.
All right, that's Barije Andrew from Ginger Road Traffic. And of course, that particular area attracts a lot of vehicle movement and border movement.
Right.
And it's actually very sad if you're on a border. I use most of the borders. Sometimes you get to realize when you're in your rush hour, you want to be in time very fast. You will tell your border guy quickly. So
even the pavement.
Even the pavement.
Pass here, yes.
But it's only when you look at some of the accidents that have been reported every month due to border accidents, and you feel like we need to be more cautious while using the road. Okay.
I never used to understand why some individuals were bitter towards the border guys. But I understood it sometime when I wanted to get out and just grab one.
Hey.
And then I was like, you're a lady, you can't do this. But sometimes that Ginger Road itself is a mess.
Yeah.
When it comes to border guys.
Messed up.
Yes.
There are very many there. And the good thing is now we do have uniforms for them, or reflectors. You will see orange, green, yellow somewhere, but most probably orange reflector jackets. Okay, that's it for the traffic update with Barije Andrew. He'll be joining us later on to give us more on the entertainment economics, the entertainment business in this. Lots of information is coming up from there. All right, Chantal, as we're summing up with our discussion of the ICT.
Right.
A quick take here is I want to believe now that our generation is ready for the ICT. We can embrace it,
Yes.
I should say. But the only issue now would be, my personal issue is the internet costs. Sometimes you will load a GB, a weekly GB, or let's say daily GB, and it will be done within 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Rather 30
2 3
minutes.
days.
Yeah.
Well, for some it could take a few days, yes.
So, and of course, when you look at the internet costs in the country, quite high for some of the phone users, as well as people who use other ICT.
And the truth is
gadgets.
the biggest percentage of our population is on Montuawansi. Let me just use that word. So you don't expect them to afford a GB every day,
Very
for
true.
example. And I don't know, you've seen memes on social media, people complaining, Airtel choose our data like this, MTN choose our data like this. And we joke about these things, we laugh about them, but they're actually happening.
Yes.
And they need to be addressed.
Before, And if you're to look at that, I believe we are all victims of data. I call it data fraud. I don't know, but the MPs run so fast in the country here. You would opt to use Wi-Fi maybe. But okay, from there, let's first get some little update from the world of sports business. As the weekend had some sporting action, but of course we steadily look at what is making headlines from the world of business in sport. Now, starting with it, we start with the local update here, with the Cabinet of Uganda approving a new physical activity and sports bill. This particular one saw the Cabinet on Monday last week have decisions on how this bill will be reinforced in the country. Now, in this bill, it is a requirement as part of the bill. All school academies will be required to be either attached to either a primary or secondary school, depending on the age of the children, with emphasis on skills development vis-a-vis the academics. Now, the bill proposes the establishment of a sports fund, changes in the management of sports facilities, and curbing rising issues such as drug abuse amongst the young people. It will also give professional players at club level a better welfare. All schools, both private and public, will have sports facilities. And under the bill, all sports clubs, including academies, will be required to meet the insurance cover for both players and the managers. Now, the bill also proposes that each player, manager, or other people in the sport should be on contract rather. Now, this will also cover academy players to stipulate the contract terms. Now, the physical activity and sports bill also proposes the introduction of trace-back contracts, where academies will gain from a portion of transfer funds where the player progresses to higher professional ranks in the sport. Now, Chantal, when you look at this bill, there's something to do with schools engaging in physical activities more, PE right. Now.
And also having their own facilities.
Yes.
The moment you mentioned that, what came to my mind was, how have you taken a look at some of the schools, how much space they have? Can they afford to have those facilities put in place? And the truth is, some of these elements are a little bit unrealistic. I don't know if this was done in consultation with the stakeholders
of the schools.
Yes.
I believe when you look at the private entities, it will actually become more expensive for parents who take their children there, because private schools will have to increase.
They'll have to increase school
these
fees.
Extra charges. Now, when you look at the public schools, I believe government takes over those ones.
Yes.
And physical education in public schools is actually a more viable call in government schools than private, because at least government is always pushing for these agendas. Then also the other issue to do with sports, the FIFA World Cup did start yesterday in Qatar. When you look at people in Doha, we do have Ugandans who are operating that side. But of course, despite the controversies, the World Cup is expected to generate billions. So the World Cup did kick off in Qatar as money flows from ticket sales and other sources like television broadcasting. There is marketing, hospitality, and licensing rights. And in most cases, all this money goes back to FIFA, which is when you look at this. However, FIFA notes that all profits generated by FIFA Global remain subject to the ordinary taxation regime for associations in Switzerland. Now, for 2022, FIFA will pay out $440 million in prize money. The winning team alone will pocket a sum of $42 million. The runners-up will take home $30 million, while third place and fourth place teams will earn $27 million and $25 million respectively. Now, the payouts continue based on the placement, and each of the 32 teams gets a piece of the prize money. Even those who finish in the bottom half, just like the hosts currently are in the bottom half, Qatar, will take home around $9 million each. Now, each participating team also receives an advance of $1.5 million to cover for the expenses. However, how does this trickle down the players? That can vary from country to country. Under recent settlement in the US, the men's and the women's teams pooled the prize money from their respective World Cup appearances and split the total among the two teams and the federation. It's the federation in the world to do so. Not all players choose to keep the money, since some of them already make millions. They pass their salaries along. When you look at the French forward, Kylian Mbappe famously donated his 2018 winnings to charity. And the entire English team in 2018 did the same. So professional clubs get a cut too, because remember, they've laid out their players to these particular teams. Shatal, as we're summing up our sports business here, I think you've got when you look at Qatar, everyone was really watching this game of Qatar versus Ecuador, where the hosts were defeated.
Well, it was very sad for Qatar because this is the first country to lose, a host country actually to lose
An opening match.
And it was very sad. I don't know how they must be demoralized.
Yeah.
However, you were mentioning something to do with business, and I was reading somewhere what I was saying. You know the beer.
Yeah, that is
yes.
the biggest sponsor there. One of the biggest sponsors.
Yes, but there was a friction where they were saying we don't sell alcohol here.
In the field.
Yes, this is the biggest sponsor. But then again, there was also information that they were going to gazette areas. You see, you are attracting people from different parts of the world, and you should have stated this in the very beginning that this is the condition.
In Qatar, their culture is coming fast. The very
That's very
big
selfish.
culture, and religion.
Very selfish.
All right, and that's it for the sports business. Qatar has continued. There are 3 matches to be played today. We shall be giving you more of the highlights regarding that from this business world. Of course, the business says of it. Qatar 2022 does continue. Qatar Airways just made huge ticket sales with over 400 flights moving into the country over the weekend. But that's it for sports business this morning. After the business tips and quotes, Baridi Andrew will be here to give you the latest from the world of entertainment. Stick around.
welcome back from that, and of course the business tips and quotes to start your day, of course refreshed and inspired, of course as a business entrepreneur and somebody that is pursuing something really remarkable. It's exactly 49 minutes past the hour of 8 a.m. and welcome to this particular episode where we look through the business and of course looking at the business in entertainment, or what we can call the entertainment economy. And of course, quite lots of events have been taking place during the weekend. Some of them were really very shocking regarding that aspect, if you are really into much regarding the business side of entertainment. But of course, firstly, let's come back to East Africa before we head there, that side, which had really something dramatic in the world of business. And we come to Africa as we see the Black Panther, or what we know as Wakanda Forever, generated 24.85 million shillings. That's in Kenya. Of course, these figures are mentioning it's in the Kenyan currency, but it's about 203,583 US dollars. That's in Kenya. That's a few days it debuted in the theaters. So that is something very remarkable. And of course, the film was launched last week. And of course, that was at the Century Cinemas in Sarit Center. That's Nairobi. And of course, attracting hundreds of filmmakers, talent, and media. So this is something very remarkable. Remember, this has actually an African actress right there, Lupita Nyong'o, and this is actually something very remarkable. Remember, during the COVID-19 pandemic, cinemas weren't really, since they were among of the affected businesses. But even when they were closed, like opened to start operating officially, the sales weren't really matching up to the standard, the much expected, not only just in Africa, but also on the global perspective, because we saw quite, for example, the Cinemax, it wasn't really coming up really as expected. But now we see the Wakanda Forever coming up with a very high record, and of course, looking at the African perspective. And of course, the premiere was organized by the company, organized by the mobile company, that's Infinix, of course, and was attended by Black Panther superstar, that is Lupita Nyong'o, and of course, that's including even her parents. And of course, looking at still that particular aspect, we look at the Kisumu governor, and also being among the people I see right there, and Nyong'o, the wife, and Dorothy. And of course, the film generated, that's the most, and of course, the most in the South African region. That's about 116.4 million shillings. That's equivalent to that's 953,691 US dollars. And of course, Nigeria followed closely with 6.5. That's 65.98 million. And of course, looking at about that's 540,613, attracting the biggest opening that's in West Africa. So Nigerians still seem to have shown quite so much more love regarding. Remember, this movie largely explains the attributes regarding the African culture. And I remember some time back I was talking about one of the ways we can actually ensure that we can make these massive sales regarding the movies that are produced in Africa. You know, if we can make stories, we can create stories that are talking about our lifestyles in Africa, talking about our cultures in Africa. We are selling down our cultures to the Western world. That will be something very remarkable. Despite the fact, it's quite a big challenge regarding that. The people that are making these movies, who seem to know best of our cultures, are the Western. Now looking at Marvel, you know, so imagine if we can copy a hint regarding this. You know, this is something that we should learn. Filmmakers out there in East Africa, you can always think about such ideas. So you can see the Black Panther making such massive sales like this. So imagine now this money is going back actually to the outside East Africa, let me say that, you know, to the original makers. It's Marvel benefiting. So just imagine we had our own companies that are investing into the cultures, because we get to realize that selling a culture out there, it is something that can really be so attractive, because if you try to emulate somebody's culture, you cannot emulate it much more better than they do. But the only way you can be the best of you is when you embark on your culture, and that is where the money is. Still talking about the Black Panther, according to the broadcast media, that's Africa, the original 2018, that's the Black Panther movie, remains the #1 film that's of all time in East and Western Africa, and #2 film that's of all time in Southern Africa. So you can see the different regions of Africa definitely still the original Black Panther still to have been taken. But still, this is just a few weeks of release, so we anticipate much more sales regarding that, because we always expect that the first product that was put out there, of course, it's great, but the second product should be a really much more greater than that. And of course, as we wind up this, of course, looking at the Luxury Cinema Complex consists of, and of course, this is the cinema that launched these, some of the other cinemas. Okay, looking at the opened in the partnership with the Century Max, the complex boasts the biggest cinema screen in the region, measuring 19.5 meters, and of course in a width of 8.7 meters in height, and also including the Dolby Atmos 4K screen and sound system. So you can see what is really there regarding this, the theaters that are launching the big movies right there in Africa. And this time around, we are talking Kenya. Maybe before we wind up, something a little brief. There was some drama, of course. Now we're heading to the United States of America, where we see Thunderbird Entertainment board fight for control as investors call for the change. This is one of the famous entertainment companies making one of the favorite movies. But of course, the investors that are shareholders into this particular company, they say there is need to change, and of course the staff, in order to evaluate, to increase the company's product. So the investors are saying probably the company is not performing to the expectations. But now the staff of Thunderbird Entertainment, they are denying these accusations. They are saying this cannot really happen. They cannot have control over us. So Thunderbird Entertainment is fighting for ownership. So they are trying to, now there is a battle between the company owners and the shareholders regarding that. So they say they believe that it can be made much better. And one of the reasons they also say is to increase the stock values of Thunderbird Entertainment. That's regarding that. And of course, more updates we shall be, of course, updating you regarding how far this case is ongoing. But that's what is really taking place. That's in the United States of America. And of course, it's exactly 56 minutes past the hour of 8 a.m. And let's get into a short commercial break. More business insights. Return. Good morning.